interpretation is we're talking about how to play and sing at the same time, which is more than walk and chew gum. I find it interesting to think about the split brain stuff, because most often I accept the fact that you can only think about one thing at a time, but there are moments in performing when I wonder, not, hey, I'm amazed at myself, but I wonder how things can be done. I don't really know how it all works, and I'm the first to say that. But what can I tell you about how to play and sing at the same time that you don't already know? That's what I think is my task today, is to see if I can show you something. But before that, I need to hear some of you play. Have you worked out an order as to who's going to perform first?
The first performer will be Gil.
Why don't we just go right ahead and do that? Let's play first. Hi, Bill.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
You bet.
Do you wanna be a star? Do you wanna play some magic on my guitar? Do you wanna be a poet? Do you wanna be my string? You could be anything. Do you wanna be the lover of another? Undercover, you could even be the man on the moon. Do you wanna be the singer? Wanna be the song? Let me tell you something, you just couldn't be more wrong. You see, it really doesn't matter when you're buried in disguise by the dark loss on your eyes, or your dreams meet their demise. Still, you turn me on. Still, you turn me on. Still, you turn me on. You wanna be the pillow where I lay my head? Wanna be the feathers lying in my bed? Wanna be on the cover of a magazine, create a scene. Every day a little sadder, a little madder. Someone get me a ladder. Do you wanna be the player? Do you wanna be my string? Let me tell you something, it just don't mean a thing. You see, I really have to tell you that it all gets so intense. From my experience, it just doesn't seem to make sense. Still, you turn me on. You turn me on. Still, you turn me on.
Yeah. That's nice. I like the song. I wanted to make a couple observations about dynamics. And I wanted to hear it all the way through. Do you mind playing it again, and I will stop you and interrupt you and blow the groove and do all that? me get in tune with you. I noticed there are a lot, at first hearing, which is the only chance you have, not just with me in this very undemocratic, unsympathetic situation, but really with the listener. There are lots of little movements and lots of subtle differences between them. And I suggest that you make the most of the differences that are there. And the ways to do that are many, but the one that strikes me that would help the most is dynamics. So why don't you go ahead and start it again and keep some dynamics in mind. Like give yourself somewhere to go. Start it out kind of soft. And yeah, let's take it from there.
Do you wanna be a star? Do you wanna play some magic on my guitar? Do you wanna be a poet? Do you wanna be my string? You could be anything. Do you wanna be the lover of another? Undercover, you could even be the man on the moon.
Okay. I think at the end of that, now you gotta see. Now, where is it? Do you want to? Where's the back half of that? Where does that start now? All right. Okay. What I mean by dynamics, I think, is. I see you doing that kind of dynamics. I'm talking about the dynamics of the whole phrase. Think of it as a longer thing you're trying to do. So when you get to the crescendo, I think, do you want to be a lover? It's the last two lines you sing before you start the second verse. That can be a longer crescendo, and then it can bring you back down to the turnaround for the top, the turnaround being the introduction, that lick that you have there. So what are the lines? Do
you want to be...
Go ahead and walk yourself through it if you want.
You want to be the lover of another. Undercover, you could even be the man on the moon.
Yeah, okay. There are ways to do that vocally as well as instrumentally, but it's sing it as one line. Do you want to be sing it all as one line, keep your vocal notes longer, and when you get to moon, don't go moon. Just hold moon. Try and think of it all as one line, in other words. Those two sentences. And if you can't sing them in one breath, think them in one breath. Do you mind trying that?
No.
Okay.
You wanna be the lover of another. Undercover, you could even be the man on the moon.
And then it's your decision. There are many ways to end it. I mean, obviously this is an end, and then you go. That is one way to do it, and another is to bring it down. The man on the moon, and then do the kind of dynamics that you were doing, the very short little swells and things that happen. Or whatever, to get you back to letter A again. Okay. Go ahead from there, if you would.
Do you wanna be the player? Do you wanna be the singer? Do you wanna be the song let me tell you something. You just couldn't be more wrong. You see, it really doesn't matter when you're buried in disguise by the dark loss on your eyes. All your dreams meet their demise.
Okay, now at the second verse, I think you have more to work with. It just seems that you could get more subtle intensity. When you make commercials, you know, they talk about how to seem mindlessly happy. And there are ways to insinuate energy without being physically energetic. And one of them is to do that subtle crescendo. I had a vocal coach who told me that 70% of my emotional content comes out of the consonants. And you could go, what is the first lyric? What are the lyrics of the verse?
Do you want to be a singer?
Yeah.
Do you want to be do you want to be the song?
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
So I hear you going, do you want to be a singer? To where writers often do their own stuff, the way the thoughts are presented on paper, and performers, you know, there's a blindness about your own material. This is your own song.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh, I'm from out of town. They a local group, are they? Okay. Well, what I'm hearing you doing is reading it straight ahead, as though you were the orator and not the singer.
Emotion, like?
The emotion is left to be interpreted in the meaning of the lyric. But, you know, dogs bark and cats meow and human animals sob and moan and wail and laugh and cry, and that's what the human animal gets to do as a singer.
What are other ways to bring the emotion out besides volume and vibrato? What are some?
Devices are, I mean, ultimately it is to feel it, but the devices are, do you want to be a singer? You know, lean on the S's, crescendo it, do you want to be a singer? Also, it didn't hit me that, do you want to be a singer, do you want to be the song? I mean, there's a difference there, you can use that. Do you want to be the singer? Is it a B flat again? Do you want to be a song? You can look at it, look at the lyrics differently. Do you want to be a song? Do you want to be a singer? Do you want to be a song? I see a chance for intensity there. And you can do it with your consonants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just pronounce them more, harder?
The consonants, but not the volume. Mm-hmm. Not the vowels. Do you want to be a singer? Mm-hmm. Or do you want to be a song?
Better pronunciation.
You know, that sounds angry. You can sound, do you want to be a singer? You can try and get some wistful stuff to it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the emotional content is going to come out of the way you enunciate. When we get pissed, pardon me, we're going in the time capsule here. We enunciate more. Mm-hmm. And that's one way of getting intensity, you know. It's hard to, you ever talk to somebody who's hard of hearing? Mm-hmm. You get mad when you have to raise your voice. You say, I said it's a nice day, isn't it? And pretty soon you just start sounding a little... And you can put yourself in emotional states by what you do. Mm-hmm. And one of them is your use of consonants. I think that's a good tool for you. Because I hear you going, do you want to be a singer? Mm-hmm. And vocal lessons would be great. Would really be a good idea. Have you done some of that?
I'm taking some now, right now, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can see already it's helped me, for sure.
Yeah.
How to use your breath.
Okay. Go ahead back to that second verse. I won't get so much in detail on it, but...
Do you want to be the singer? Do you want to be the song? Let me tell you something. You just couldn't be more wrong. You I really have to tell you.
Okay. So I like, let me tell you something. And you're very comfortable with that phrase. Because there's a little bit of a lick in there. And let me tell you something. And then you've got some inflection in the way you say tell. And it all works very nicely. Da, 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 da. And right here you have a chance. Da, 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 da. You sort of got a triplet feeling. Da, 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 da. You have a chance to make that sort of trip along with you for the next phrase. You know what I'm talking about?
Kind of. I'm not really following you.
All right, well, play them as triplets and sing them as triplets. We want to be a singer. And then we'll go ahead and play it with me. Let's play this together.
Wanna be the singer, you wanna be the song. Let me tell you something, you just couldn't be more wrong. You see, it really doesn't matter.
That's it. You see, it really doesn't matter. I'm a little foggy, I can't get up there, but da da ba da 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 da.
More.
You could push on each one of them, and also you could play them really as triplets. You see, it really doesn't matter. You can almost slow it down a little bit. You know, we don't have to be metronomic.
The guitar?
The whole
triplets?
pulse. No, the vocal.
Okay.
And you also have a chance to do harmonies. You know, you can see it really doesn't matter, or really doesn't matter, or you know, you can make something of that moment because it's different than everything else that's happening to that point. So think about that. Anyway, you don't need to accomplish all these things right now. Couldn't. There's a better way to say couldn't.
I have trouble with how to say it, how to voice it. Not sure how to attack it. Dent. I try to put an E between the T and the...
Yeah.
Try to make a D-E-N-T. Couldn't.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What instead?
Well, how do you say it?
Couldn't. Oh, you mean how do I talk it?
How do you say I couldn't make it, you know?
Couldn't make it, man.
Couldn't. Oh, I mean, that's your start. That really is. I mean, we do need to sing.
Couldn't.
Yeah, there are ways to make words like love sound a little bit less like to separate them from the way we speak. But also the way you speak is just so much more natural. And it's a good place to start. But it's really, excuse me, what's the
Really
melody
doesn't
there?
See, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, but couldn't, the line before that.
You just couldn't be more wrong, couldn't be more wrong.
You just couldn't be more wrong. I would skip the T. I mean, this is not opera. You couldn't be more wrong. You know, you could do that. But think about the way you say it. Start with that. Also, another thing you can do is lean on the first syllable. Couldn't, and then maybe you can say couldn't be more wrong. You know? Right now, the melody goes couldn't be more wrong, and the way you say that is I couldn't be more wrong. And that's the way a melody is written, is I couldn't be more wrong. So that's not the most successful melody. I couldn't be more wrong. You know, it would be like the way I would phrase it when I take liberties with songs, which I always do, is I couldn't be more wrong, or something like that, you know. I couldn't be more wrong. Instead of I couldn't be more wrong. So if you're going to cop the melody and be true to that melody, which is there's value in that too, you really have to find a way to say couldn't that's natural for you and it's going to be effective. Just a little thing. I'll tell you what, why don't you go ahead and, have you got another song that you can play me?
I just plan on doing this one for you.
Did you? Okay, alright. Let's go on with it then.
Okay.
Alright. Why don't you go to the next
Still, still, you turn me on. Still, you turn me on. Still, you turn me on.
Okay, I've got a friend who every little thing that he does, he turns into a style. I mean, he hears somebody play with a metal flat pick, and he goes and finds a copper flat pick, and he turns it into a style. Mm-hmm. And there are ways to do this that you could experiment with, because right now the change is really nice, and the left hand, you're playing it well. I think that you could mute it. I mean, there are lots of laws you could break, and there are lots of things, or very classical, real trebly, something to technically add to the fact that this is a different thing going on in this song. Because the rest of it is sort of, no thirds, chords with no thirds, occasionally a minor third, so we know what key we're in, and then you go down to the, but by the time you get here, the wonderful world of guitarists, we say, a piano player would say, now wait a minute, is this jazz or what? But, we can really take those liberties. This is a different moment, and it's different musically. So I would suggest that you work on the dynamics of that, and also work on some sort of technique whereby you can make that, again, put more life into the whole thing by making it understated, and yet the consonants of the guitar are the attack. The vowels are the sound, the aftertouch. Yeah. And also that, what is it? Is it this?
Exactly.
That can crescendo even though it's soft. Okay. Okay. Now I know I might be getting away from how to play and sing at the same time here, but I am talking about both of them. And they're two different things until you do them together, and then maybe playing and singing at the same time is what other people see, but what you really do when you do it is two things, often. And I think that my concentration goes from my voice to my guitar to my voice to my guitar to my voice to my guitar in a phrase, sort of binary, like a little computer. And
it's never on both.
Sometimes, well, if I'm playing something that is, something that is really parallel, or something that is so much in the pocket to where it's a locked guitar pattern, then I'm sort of free vocally. But if I have to think about the pitch with certain notes vocally, I think about the guitar, at other times I'm just really flying between the two a lot. And that's not counting thinking about lyrics and what comes next, and of course what it is you mean. I would spend the time, I think you could learn a lot from a vocal coach about what you mean and how to convey emotion. And I think you might be able to transfer that to your guitar playing too.
Communication.
Yeah, because I see, the tools and the devices are like, we talk about pronunciation and we talk about dynamics and diction or consonants and crescendos, etc. And those are tools, but the thing to become aware of is the need for more life in the music. And it's in the song, and it's in you. It is in you. The devices are ways to get it to come out, but the thing to realize is the need for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. Oh,
Pleasure.
also, we may be taking more time with, I don't know, I'm just going to do this. Does anybody else have any comments about this? Anything you'd like to add or share? I don't want to be the guru here.
Just maybe a little more, same thing I was thinking was dynamics, a little more volume on the stroke parts.
Yeah.
Bring it out.
One thing I also know is that this is probably it's hard. This is a hard thing to do. And dynamics are sort of like spiritualism, you know, that's the first thing to die when you get scared. And it's the first thing to go and it's the last thing to come back, you know. Not just the tool of dynamics, but the need for them and the natural feel for dynamics.
Yeah, because you just start struggling for the right notes and
That's right.
keep your voice from cracking.
You want to do it good. Yeah, okay. Well,
Thanks a
thanks,
lot.
Bill. Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Got somebody getting ready here. Hello, Mark. Good to meet you.
Played at a couple weddings this morning, so I ended up on YouTube.
I'm gonna roll with the piranhas tonight. I'm gonna dive into the Amazon. And if those piranhas should bite, I'm gonna blast them with my Amazon gun. 'Cause it's got bullets that can really bite. And it's got bullets that fight back, fight. And when I roll with the piranhas, don't try and stop me, mama, tonight. Well, I'm going skinny dipping tonight. Slide down the banks of the Amazon. And just to show that he can't fight, I'm gonna bring my shadow along. Oh, he's got jaws that can really bite. And he's got claws that fight back, fight. And when I roll with the piranhas, don't try and stop me, mama, tonight. Piranha Springs, and I sings, it's just another fish to me. Just another foreign country. Just another sharp-edged reverie. Piranha Springs, and I sings, I listen to the melody. So when I roll with the piranhas tonight, when I dive into the Amazon, oh, please don't get excited. I brought all my senses along, and I've got a spirit that can really fight, and I've got a soul that fight back fight. And when I roll with the piranhas, don't try and stop me, mama, tonight. I'm gonna roll with the piranhas, don't try and stop me, mama, tonight. Da-dee-dum. Mama, papa, ooh, meow, 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 meow.
Sense of meter, your sense of time, and I think you could make more of it. You know, the guitar is the band.
Yeah.
It's the whole band, and as far as the duet approach of singing and playing goes, that is what you have to work with. And I see that you have a real light touch.
Not always, but yeah, right
Well,
now. Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I understand that. Do you sing louder than you play often? I mean, do you notice that?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a problem with me too. It's a soft-voiced Renaissance instrument, the guitar, and you've got more power than it does. So it's easy to overplay it. That's always a compromise, volume-wise, level-wise for me, is backing off vocally and playing to the strength of the guitar without getting too buzzy and weird with it. Have you had any vocal stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a good high note, a true high note, will come to you soft first. You know, that like most of us, there are notes that you probably can't hit unless you sing them out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, trained singers can sing them effortlessly, and a true note will come to you soft. And so that part of the compromise is always good. Learning how to sing up there and soft. Or even bass notes, soft. Instead of having to have all this extra air down there and holding a long note and having it last about 3 seconds and you're out of air. Learning how to do both of those things and studying really helps to relate to the guitar, because then you don't have to overpower your guitar. But, you know, dynamically I thought that you could make a lot more of the, you know, there's a steady pulse bass line in this song that my first feeling about it was that this was a picking pattern, or that this was fingerstyle guitar. But all those are just words that we use. What people feel is what's important. And it's, as you play it in G, I saw you, your body language was, you were kind of moving around, and I believe those are natural movements. And what I was seeing was your body trying to flow with this whole thing and make it smooth. And really, it's kind of a bluesy, salty tune that vocally you could make your notes shorter, be less concerned with pitch, be more concerned with attitude, just be kind of salty. And guitar-wise, you could be the same, you know. Just, it's not so much the technical side of it as just it's an attitude. It really hits me as an attitude. So, does anybody have any observations about that?
It was almost charming that the song Girls, that he was singing such a You know, you'd love to hear every lyric of it because he was playing it so smoothly and so laid back. You could almost get away with that if that's how the rest of his show was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like his persona was coming through there more than the song.
Yeah. That's sort of a French idea, that the way the French will do tragic songs with happy lyrics. Or the other way around. You know, that the music will just be tragic and maudlin, and it'll be, things look grand, things look great. And but I think that you might be right about that, and that would be a good way to be understated about it, is to sing it really, and to play it the way you have. Still, the ability to do what I've been talking about, I think, is important. You know, do you mind doing it again, or did you have another song that you were also thinking of doing?
Yeah. I mean, I could do another one.
Okay, because that one is not so much like a matter of working on little parts to it. It's a matter of looking at the whole song in terms of attitude, being a little bit more punctuating in the bass part, really causing it to be a pulse. And you've got a really good feeling for time, and you can make more of that. You know, most of us one-man bands, that's really what this is about, is we're insecure. We rush, we tune sharp, we overplay, you know, we fill in the gaps, we don't trust the silence. You don't really seem to have those problems. You're just playing this thing, you know. And I'm suggesting that you...
my right hand always shakes.
Well, I saw it. I saw you nervous. And does it always shake?
Yeah, well, I don't play enough really to get comfortable probably on stage. I play so occasionally. But it's real difficult for me to just play.
Yeah.
When I get on stage.
Yeah.
And I never anticipate it, and there it is. It's just like...
Well, I've got some stuff that I can talk about with that.
That you never wanted to see at weddings. You know, it just comes back again. It surprises me every time when it happens.
I think you're right. I think you are very understated, and I like it. The more I see of you, the more it comes out that way. And I think you could do it, you know. My first thought was, why is this mild-mannered white guy trying to write this Delta Black salty tune? But it's not. I think you can pull it off, you know. I think you could do it. I'm starting to see that.
I have another one that this is pretty much just under development, or that means it's not finished yet.
Right. It's in marketing.
Right.
Such a cockeyed happiness to get a thistle with a kiss. With a woman so soft, how can life be so hard? I always learned how to act polite till I reached for her in the night. Mother Hill in the back of a top-down car. Well, Daddy-o, you're still a song on my radio. Drop over, let me sit next to you. Well, Daddy-o, we'll listen to the game on the radio. Then on Monday morning I'll be wearing your coat and your blues.
Yeah, well, see, I have a tendency to want to hear the rest of the song, but I'd like to stop you because I think I like it. I like the story, and I don't think it's my place to do what I do for a living, really, which is to listen to songs and listen to lyrics, and that's my tendency, would be to go ahead and hear the rest.
Sure.
But it's interesting. The thing that I see about your art and what you could be doing, I'm not saying that everybody's supposed to be like me. John Prine can go, and
I like John Prine a lot, but that's
well, I'm hearing a
all he
little
ever
bit.
does. Is
Prine. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I'm hearing a little bit of Prine in there, but I guess I'm hearing a little bit more harmonically sophisticated stuff, and you're playing a little bit more. But you could play the guitar with more authority, and you would have more to sing from. You know, my idea, the thing that I really try and do with guitar is, and I always talk to sound people about it when I do sound checks, is I say it's really a duet. I'd like the guitar to be nice and loud. I want to be able to sing through the strings. Kind of get the picture of the voice just coming right through the strings. And if I want to overpower my voice, let me be able to do that with the guitar. It's not so you can't understand the lyrics anymore, but this is not just the band, it's the orchestra. It's the bass line, it's the rhythm section, it's the integrity of the groove, and it's the inner voicings on top, and it's the funkiness, and it's the harm. It's so many things. And there are as many approaches to being a singer-songwriter or a guitarist singer as there are guitarist singers. But I am a firm believer that if you develop the both of them to virtuosity, then you're gonna have more to work with when you can, forget about the technique and forget about pitch and just start playing what you mean. When you start to let go, you'll have more to sing to, because you're kind of singing to your guitar. So I think you can play with more authority and more volume and more dynamics. I have friends who are songwriters who use their guitars as songwriting tools. And it sounds like it. They never grow. And the guitars don't live. It's, and I think that is just fine. Some of them make great demos. And it sounds really good. But if you really want something to sing along with, you could try getting more volume out of your guitar, because your voice and your mind and the way what you're writing and the way you're singing, it all seems like you could use more help from the guitar. Certainly not pitch-wise and not time-wise, but just balls, a little more strength.
And also you're talking about more going on the guitar?
Oh, occasionally more going on, but I don't think I would miss more going on. It's not busyness, it's the authority, and it's the attacks, and it's kind of like the vocals need some reasons to be where they are. And the reasons can be in the making the most of your pulses.
I write songs with a lot of words in them, generally, and sometimes that's what I end up concentrating on, because I probably write fewer words now than I used to, which is good, but it's difficult sometimes to. I like country music, and I write a lot of story songs and that kind of thing.
Well, it's a great opportunity to be a busy guitar player.
At the end of the phrases and that kind of thing. You mean?
Sure, or harmonizing with your busy lyrics. I don't think either of those songs were busy.
No, I would agree with that.
Like Mac McAnally, I think, is busy. He's got a lot on his mind. And he writes really busy songs. But his guitar playing is also very, very busy. And sometimes to a fault, I can see that he arranges himself out of understanding. Just for my mind. But you don't do those things. And I think that you could benefit by trying to. Okay?
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Do we have a third? Is there somebody else?
Third performer is Bill
Do you have any suggestions, John? This is all very loose here.
I'm interested, I keep thinking back, well, you must review a lot of songs. You do a lot of songs written by other people. They must come to you in all stages of development.
They do.
Even the lead sheet sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of interested in hearing about how you develop a song from the beginning stages up through your performance version, what occurs to you, what your reasons are.
How I develop a song? Well, choosing is the hardest part. It has to be something that I believe in. But even that happens later. It doesn't have to be something I believe in at first. It has to be something I like. And it has to be something I can make my own. And there are non-verbal reasons that I can't describe, but they have to do with the melody and the way I know I sound vocally, certain vowel sounds and things like that, or things I know I can do. I've often said I can yell, but I can't scream, so it keeps me out of rock and roll. What else about how I choose a song? I had a thought about it.
Do a lot of people present material to you?
Yeah, I get a lot of songs. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that's how I choose a song. Those kinds of ideas. But how I develop it afterwards, I see what's on it's a form of theft. I see what's on the demo, or how much of the existing music is really natural to me. And then I kind of learn it. And the parts that I don't remember or can't play or don't make any sense to me are the parts that are not me, that I don't like. And usually, I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to remember the lyrics to an old song, and the parts that I remember are the parts that I love, and that's the reason I go after it, and I go back in and I try and find out what that song's all about, and everything that I don't remember about the song is the stuff that I think is just lousy. So I don't remember what I don't like about old songs. And I do remember what I do like. And that's the kind of the way I evolve arrangements too, because I'll take what I like and leave the rest. And only I am the one who feels a little bit guilty that I may have copped something. And then all of a sudden it grows out of that. It grows out of that for me. And originally I slap the melody and the changes that I know together and I sing the song. And then I just start looking at what's missing and what could be done, and I kind of start doing this with myself, listening back on tape. And I usually over arrange it. And I believe that it's a good idea to do that, because then I take too much in to a studio and the producer tells me to lighten up a little bit, but at least I have too much to choose from. It's not as though someone says, okay, be creative, go, this is just, there's nobody home in this little movement here. So it's nice to have too much.
So you don't evolve an arrangement just for voice and guitar, you're thinking of the orchestration right away in the recording that might come with it?
No, that's only in the recording sense. Usually, in those instances, I have to limit the guitar part.
Right.
When I'm arranging it for a solo, that's Candyland. I get to just do whatever I want and as much of what I want. And when I hear it back, I decide when I'm really wasting time or being insecure or being busy in certain moments. Yeah. You want to come up?
Yeah.
All right. And you are? Bill. Yeah, all right. Looks like you got a new one. Huh?
Yeah.
All right.
I got plenty of old ones.
That is a great book.
Yeah, good excuse. I haven't memorized this.
Sing the songs right from the heart. Nothing else got in the way. Now we dream of doing nothing else, repeating ourselves day after day. Someone sneering, nice guys finish last. Spooked us into giving in too fast. Tricked us to believe our die was cast as a background melody. I've used it hardened into lonely life. Someone's gotta give, someone's gotta choose. We could only give the bigger half. Someone's gonna win, no one's gonna lose. Logic has a language of its own. You must listen closely to its tone. You will find yourself just another lonely drone in a background melody. You were born with lots of perfect years, but who can listen in these times? You treated problems like a slot machine, where just a dollar's worth of dimes. Well, the first solution seldom gives the best results. Now you're pouting 'cause you think it's someone else's fault. Life's as pointless as a diamond in a vault. You're just a background melody.
I like it a lot. I think it's nice. You get
All the
it.
problems I'm having with it were right there. Dang it.
Yeah, in the song, you mean?
Yeah, in the performance of it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, it's long.
Yeah.
It's long, and that always makes it hard dynamically. It's hard to do. Yeah, I wasn't sure what was going to happen after the beginning. You know, that little legato thing, the 2 changes, played 4 times. Those are always hard for me because it's not a lot to work with, you know. And whenever I listen to the radio and I hear 2 changes, I know I'm going to hear them again right afterwards. And then to do that twice is a lot to ask. So, but if that's what you have written and that's what you want to do, then it's a matter of you really do have to look at the dynamics of the whole thing. And I see that it's so easy for me to look at dynamics in the short form because you were doing that. What was the stuff in the beginning though?
And I tuned down a half step, of course.
It's all right.
Give me some headroom.
It's all right. So what is it that you got going?
Just
Yeah. Yeah. I see you going with a little swell inside the first chord and a little time movement and then a little bit of swell and then a little time and then a little swell. Might be nice to think of it as twice as long. Like do this da, da, and then do the second half down. Or something like that to make it instead of a series of 8 emotional moments, da, 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 4. Or even if you can stretch it out, 2. You know, get the first half to be one kind of statement and then the second half to be kind of an answer to it. But as soon as the groove started, I thought, oh, well, I couldn't figure out how that leaded up to the groove, but that's like critiquing the song, and I'm not going to do that. And the same thing that I was talking about with the intro, I think applies to the whole song. You've really got the technical stuff down, and you're a good singer, and your songwriting has evolved, and you really are putting out a lot. And now it's time to, I mean, not it's time, but now it's possible with the skills that you've got going to look at the whole song, and then you see the problems. Just like you said, I mean, it's all right here because it's like, how can you make a song that long? It's not MacArthur Park, but it's,
right.
you know, it's a long song. How can you make it go somewhere? And when the groove started in the beginning, I thought, oh, it's a real nice touch. It's going to be great. And after the long vocal scat kind of thing, and you came back in with another verse,
Yeah.
I started going, oh, this is going to be a long pull, you know, to myself.
Yeah.
This is
energy right there.
yeah. And I wasn't listening to the lyrics. I was trying not to listen to the lyrics.
Uh-huh.
And there might be just what's needed in the lyrics. But I would look at the arrangement, maybe cutting that part of that vocal interlude in half.
Maybe stick with just the beat part of it.
Yeah, maybe. Something like that. And the overall symmetry of the song. Like if I were to look at it as a given with that artistic intro and then the groove and then the long vocal instrumental, using the voice as an instrumental solo, and then coming back with a third verse and then going out with that vocal scat thing that you did. If all that was given and there was an arrangement written for it and I had to do that, maybe that's the way I should look at it instead of talking to you about changing your song. And it's probably a benefit to look at it that way, because that would be a problem. That would be hard to do. Always leave yourself somewhere to go. And
Yes.
I had a teacher one time, an acting teacher, who was always trying to get me to arrive and come out and say something and be more and be bigger. And finally, I did. I just blew up. I exploded on the stage in Chicago in this play. And afterwards he said, fine, good. Now we got here. Now put the lid back on. And what he meant was, if you give people everything you got, then they know it. And they know that you can't go farther. If you play your guitar as loud as you can and they start hearing it buzzing, they know that it's not going to get any louder. And if you sing to the top of your range, and if you play, it's just always beyond the real strength, then they know what you have. But if you stop short of that, the assumption is you have incredible power. And so the top is not really the top of your dynamics. The top should be just underneath that. So you have less really to work with than what you think. That's the way I look at it. And so that means that I truly have to be careful and give myself somewhere to go. So it doesn't mean just start softer, but the motion, the dynamics can be longer. That really helps people live through the time. You know, I'm not talking about endure.
No,
I'm talking about live through.
But there's a bit of that.
A little bit, yeah, yeah. So that's what I think. But I think you're also very accomplished.
Thank you.
I like your stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. How are we doing on time? Can we take 5 minutes before?
We'll begin your presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
5-minute break.
All right. Is that all of us? Go ahead and close it.
Let's get started.
We've got a couple people just coming in. Yeah, come on in. Will you close the door? Sure. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and start here. I did a quarter at the U of M in Minneapolis at the McPhail School. And so I've got a lot of notes here. And we'll see. I'm going to try and be concise and brief here. And because I want to hear your questions, I'd like to hear some, I'd like to find out what you know, what you want to know. Oh,
Plug it back in.
yeah, you got to plug me in.
I just want to take it home.
Who's got the headphones on? Okay. Well, I started out with definitions when I gave my first little talk there. And my definition of performance, I asked everyone to write down their definition of what a performance is, thinking that I would get an obvious answer, and I really didn't. I got lots of different things, and it was everything from trying to improve mankind to wanting to be great, wanting to be famous, wanting to do lots of things. And I had to think about it. I didn't know the answer myself, verbally, when I asked the question. I had to think about it a while. And my definition really is that performance is moving people emotionally. That's really all, to me, that it is. And granted, there has to be some substance to that, I was telling John last night, my guitar teacher in Barcelona told me there are two kinds of guitar players. There's a guitarrista and a guitarrero. And a guitarrista is the person who plays music first and happens to play it on the guitar. but the sound of the guitar is really secondary to him, to this guitarista, as compared to the structure of the music and the music itself as a form that will accomplish emotionally what you want to do. And then the guitarero is a person who loves the sound of the guitar and loves the way his hands feel, her hands feel, and is pretty much into the sound of the guitar, and the structure of the music is secondary to that. And he looked at me and he said, "And you are a guitarero." And at the time I took it as a compliment, and I think I still do. I think that Leo is a guitarero, Leo Katke is a guitarero. Although, sometimes I wonder about that. I think maybe it's because I don't understand his organization. And then I'll live with it for a while and it'll all make sense. One thing that I used to think we don't have any control over is our taste. You know? If you like the Doobie Brothers, you'll probably like Michael McDonald solo. If you like so-and-so, you'll probably like his next record, their next record. Those kinds of things. But I used to think I had no control over what I liked and what I didn't like. And after thinking about that, you realize, well, I have a friend who plays, she's a concert pianist, and she loves all of the Bach that she knows how to play, and she hates all of the Bach that she doesn't know how to play. So that tells you something. The only way to change your taste is to study something and learn about it and get inside of it. And I am now marketed as a country music performer, and I came nose to nose with my own bigotry about country music. And I had to really get around that to sit down and say, oh yeah, George Jones is a pretty soulful cat, you know, and Don Williams, there's some wonderful things that happen in there. But I had to get rid of this sort of beer tops and teardrops stereotype attitude that I had about country music. And so I'll just suffice it to say that the only way to change your taste is to study something. Talking about dynamics, I realized that a lot of what I meant was phrasing. It's the way to make a phrase live. Making dynamics twice as long, 4 times as long, etc., really means looking at an entire phrase, a thought, looking at guitar music vocally as though it were a sentence, and playing it in one dynamic way throughout that whole sentence and having the rest be an answer. So it's really phrasing that I'm talking about. And something kind of, when I was talking about, I wasn't alluding to how people pass the time while you perform, but music is a temporal art. It's like dance. It takes time to witness it, it takes time to do it. And now it takes time to write a book and it takes time to paint a picture, but you don't see the painter's bad portraits, they stay in the garbage, and you don't see the writer's rough draft and they stay out, and people don't see those. So performers are judged on consistency, you know. If I have a bad night in Milwaukee, people in Milwaukee assume that I am not very good, and I'll go somewhere else and I'll have a great night, you know. So one of the things I try and be is consistent. And the temporal arts are risky that way. I've got some stuff here about emotional obstacles, and if we have time at the end, I'll talk about that. In communication skills, I had a manager one time who was, I used to wear a little hat, and he was always saying, open your eyes and take off your hat, you know. And I couldn't quite figure out what was going on, but he meant, you know, do it for people, you know. I discovered that I needed an audience, but it wasn't a mouse in the corner that I just didn't relate to. I really needed to try and communicate with people. And that may or may not be obvious to some of you, but it's hard. It's hard to sing with my eyes open and communicate with people. It's something I need to remember to do. And I was talking about jingles, you know, people being mindlessly happy, and how jingle singers have this ability. They don't have a sound or a style that they've evolved, but they have an ability to sell soap that doesn't have to do with who they are. People listen to what they say, but not really who they are. And I have long known that people are more interested in what you say than who you are. That's sad but true. And there are ways to get yourself involved in what you're doing and to bring life into stuff. If you smile when you're not happy long enough, it really will happen, that positive stuff. Or if you need to be tragic and sad, and you actually do the body language that happens when you actually are sad, your body will get you. You know, it will tell you. There are ways that you can put yourself in the moods. I talked about putting the lid on. I think that's real important, putting the lid on your dynamics. If you are at the point to where you're topping out all the time, it's really important to put the lid on. For those of you who aren't there, it's important to try and get there. I'm an alcoholic, recovering alcoholic, and I remember I was in treatment, and the counselor said, all of those of you who talk too much ought to shut up and listen, and all of those of you who are too shy to say anything ought to really talk. And that's essentially what I'm talking about. It's the part of you that you know is not happening is the part that you need to force, because that is what improves your communication. And I know that this is not a democracy, this situation here like this. But neither is it being on stage. I mean, this is more critical, less emotional. It's pretty hard to immerse yourself in what you're trying to do and get involved and think about what you mean as opposed to how you're doing it. But you go out on a stage and all the lights are on you, and you've got the microphone, and hopefully you're in shape and did your homework and all that. It all presumes you have something to say, and you feel like you damn well better have something to say. That's what you call stress, you know, and stress is the destroyer of personality. So I'll get into the emotional stuff, as I said, if we have some time, but don't take yourself so seriously. Now to get down to it, as far as guitar goes, it takes me a while to get my sound on guitar, and if I have a job and if I have the time to, I play a lot the night before. Because when I wake up the next day, I'm ready. Even if I have to change my strings so that the guitar has to go through this thing, I'm still ready and my hands still feel like I'm a guitar player. Take the time to get in tune. You know, it's not worth fighting for, to the extent to where in a performance situation the audience is starting to bum out, and that's always the pressure, you know. Get it in tune or get it as close as you can, and then there's always those asides, well, it's close enough for whatever it is. But well-tempered is not a myth. It's not just a theory, it's really true. And I use a chord tuner before I go out and play, and I use a tuner, and I have worked on ways to tune my guitar without one, and there are several methods, and it's all important. But if I get an A chord sounding just gorgeous, I can be in big trouble when I start playing other chords and other songs. And well-tempered is just, it's not a myth, and it's not something that's necessarily hearable. If you don't have time to sit and count beats by whatever technique you're going to tune by, I suggest you use a tuner. You know, it's like Tom Lehrer used to say about bass 2 math. He said, unfortunately, it seems that, how did he say it? The question is not whether or not you know the right answer, but whether you understand the problem. Well, in performance, it's whether or not you have the right answer. You know, get in tune instead of finding a proper technique that works well, but just not right now. You know what I mean? Sometimes the music gets too precious. When I get scared, it all gets too precious. I forget what I mean, I take myself too seriously, and it all gets too precious, and it gets pristine, and that happens in the studio. It gets sterile, actually, is what happens. And at that point, I really need to forget about it and get into expression. Just to talk about guitar, and then to talk about voice for a little bit. I studied, as I said, a little bit in Barcelona, and you can learn as much, or certainly as much, you can learn more from John than I learned in Barcelona. I went there at 19 and I was infatuated with the idea of studying guitar in Spain. I could have learned as much in Denver or Mexico or California, or I grew up in Denver. And there's a lot more passion in Spain than there is, it's sort of a flamenco kind of classical that you come out with. Even the pieces were more romantic and more passionate. People go to Germany and study Bach. If you really want to study classical guitar, go to Britain or go to Germany. Or as far as left-hand stuff goes, learn it right. By right, I mean the most understandable to you. It is important to understand it once before you make it automatic, before you create your own mistakes and then are imprisoned by them. It is important to understand it once and say, yeah, that makes sense. That's what I believe. And this is all in the interest of making this easy. If it weren't easy, we couldn't do it. And then you start hearing compliments like, God, that really sounds hard. Well, that doesn't accomplish what I'm trying to do in a song. So, arranging, I was just talking with somebody here about arranging. And for me, I'm a songwriter, but mostly performers do their composing by being arrangers. And arranging is really important to me. And it actually is a form of composition for me. And I work from my bass lines. I'm thumb-heavy gut string player. So I work from my bass lines. And to that extent, I guess I'm sort of classically oriented. I phrase instrumentally often with my vocal. Sometimes I will be contrary, but rarely will I just be sort of motoring along and that's really not the kind of stuff I do. I think chords and substitutions are really important. I wanted to say one thing about rhythm. There's a joke. What do you call a guy who hangs around with musicians? And the answer is a drummer. Well, that's not true. There are a couple of drummers that I really respect, one of whom is a guy in Nashville named Kenny Malone, who's the only drummer I've ever known, who had to have a copy of lyrics that I was singing in the studio. And I was really impressed by that, and I knew that he wasn't trying to flatter me. He was trying to find out as much as he could about this song. And I can't say enough about the one-man band phenomenon of playing solo, rushing, tuning sharp. My idea of intonation sometimes is whatever is out is flat. So I'll tune it up. Well, I think that as a group, singing guitar players tune sharp. They just start there and they just start going up. And we start to play, we lose the rhythm, we lose the groove. I think that we overplay. And by overplay, I mean have you ever seen anybody go, well, what the hell is this? Can be a chord, can be used as a chord. But if you're just, if this is like, well, this is just really not too musical. You can, there are ways to flat the third without just letting go of the guitar, and there are added notes because that's where your finger is, and you're playing a pattern of sixteenths, you know. Well, I've got what here? What is that? What could I find? That. Well, there's no reason to add that little nicely strident open string in the middle of all these kind of fretted things. So we play, but we overplay. And sometimes I will play notes just to keep the time. And the thing that I wanted to say about rhythm itself is that there is such integrity in a good rhythm, in a good steady rhythm. And I mean integrity in the fullest sense of the word. It's one of the things that becomes felt instead of, well, people don't hear sharp or flat. They don't describe us as being out of tune that way, and they don't say we rush. They feel things. Audiences go through these emotional things, and what they feel when you rush is they feel edgy. You know, and it's not just something to play metronomically so that they take it for granted, but it really can be the driving pulse. And there are those moments, and I think you know what they are, when you really know that you're playing with a steadiness, that it becomes the reason for the silence. It becomes the reason for the rests. Otherwise, there's no reason to do a short eighth note rest if you're rushing. You know, so I cannot say enough about rhythm, especially for us, the one-man band. What else I got here? Yeah, just the idea that, like I was telling you, I tell these sound guys that this is the band, and it's more than that. It's truly a duet, and I really try and I don't know. We can talk about PA if you want in questions afterwards, but I really do try and get the guitar up there and hot. And I want to talk a little bit about vocal. You have what you have, you know. The meaning of a gift is just that. It is a gift. You didn't have anything to do with it, and your job is to be true to that gift, or be physically capable of growing and developing a gift. But a gift is a gift, and your voice is your voice. That's what you have, and some of us have more to work with than others. I started out being really affected, and I think that may be typical. I was singing Broadway show tunes and Chuck Berry and Chain Gang songs, you know, this little waspy kid from Denver singing about rocks and gravel. And it was all, I didn't know who I was, and so my music had no boundaries. My lyrics had no boundaries. But what I mean is that the vocal approach was very affected stylistically. And I didn't hear any of that today. I think it's really nice. I really didn't see anybody being Springsteen or Joni Mitchell or James Taylor or you know, those are difficult periods to get through when you can't see around a performer. When you hear someone who is, you decide everything that you want to be, it's really hard to get around that. And sometimes it takes years, and you go back and listen to that record and you realize it's out of tune and it's rushing. And God, that was really an insipid, maudlin lyric. How come I thought that was so great, you know? Listen to tapes. Listen to yourself back on tape. Gently. But do it, you know. All the way from the first time when you hear people say, "Do I sound like that?" You know what that feels like. And then you grow out of that and you start putting yourself through those things. It is nice. It is a very helpful tool. And so is video. It's a great way to learn about yourself. Sometimes the style, the Broadway style, the long vowels and the notes held way too long, and the melodrama that I got into really got in the way of the meaning of the song. So it's important to find out about your licks, the vocal licks that you like. And it's not really theft. Imitation is the only way I really know how to learn. I innovate or I imitate. That's about it. And my inability to imitate accurately is what people call growth. That's how you learn how to talk, was by imitating. There's nothing wrong with imitating. The lawyers will call it plagiarism, or they'll call it what they will, but really it is the way that I grow. And now I pirate from myself. I steal from my other ideas and from unfinished songs, and I don't care. I don't care about that. When I recorded Bluer Than Blue, that was sort of the end of a self-image that I had. Not just philosophies and attitudes, but the way I thought I was a singer, guitar player. Because I heard producers saying, sing those notes short. Sing them short, slow down, sing it short. You're rushing on against the track. You need to trust this song. You need to trust this space that we've created, this environment. The song won't necessarily sing itself, but there's a lot in the song. So just do what you need. Don't do more than what you need to do. I always believe that if I'm into it, then that communicates to the audience. That's something that I've always trusted, and I still do not know if that is the truth. But I have always trusted that. And because, I'll hear people come up afterwards when I really think that I just laid an egg, and they'll say, boy, that was just really very good, and you moved me. And, so what people get and what I give are always two different things. But it's the only thing that I can really trust is how I feel about it. And being effective to me is being genuine, not just seeming genuine. So my job these days is to be into it, is to want to do it, as opposed to just being in good voice. And, well, I was talking about pitch, and I know it's always a sensitive area, but people don't call you sharp or flat. They call you, they feel nervous, or they feel lethargic, or they feel bored, or they feel irritated. That's what sharp and flat really is. And singing on pitch is much the same as having a sound system that is so well put together that people aren't aware that there's a sound system anymore, and that they don't see the lights. I'm not talking about rock and roll. We're not really, there's not an enormous cactus that's going to come out of the floor covered with smoke and surrounded by dry ice. I mean, it's not really staging. The kind of productions that I do and music that I do really calls for the invisibility, the eliminating of PA and lights. And if I sing on pitch, people don't feel uncomfortable. And if I can control my fear, people don't feel uncomfortable. Nobody likes it when you're scared and you're on stage. People don't like that. They don't say, oh, he's scared. They don't judge you. They just don't feel good when they see you that way. So those, that to me is important stuff, because to look at sharp and flat as sharp or flat is not the point. It's beside the point, in fact, because the point is to be effective and to get yourself out of the way, to know enough about sharp and flat to get that crap out of the way and go ahead and do the song. Well, let's see. How are we doing? You have to start from where you are. I could be the greatest tennis player in the world if only I knew how to play tennis. Or the kind of sophomoric dreams that have to do with really being great. I still want to be great. I really do. I want to be great, and I think that's a fine thing to go ahead and want to do. But you can only work from where you really are. And that's why stuff like this is important. Because I don't know where I really am a lot of the time. And it takes you, and it takes one another, and it takes feedback. Those are important things to me. So work from where you are, hard as it is. I have a pet theory about what is scary and what is not scary in your life. And there are things that I believe that are too scary to do. Well, those things don't scare you at all, because you're not going to do them. It's the things that are just barely doable that scare the living daylights out of you. Those are the things that you're going to do, are the things about yourself that you know you need to work on, that you just don't want to do. Those are the threatening things, and those are the real crosses to bear, I guess. And that's kind of where I'm at about it. So work from where you are. There's a whole other side to all this, talking about the nuts and bolts is what I call it, and it had to do with choice of PA and publishers and songwriting and booking and managers and how to sell your own record and the realities of record companies and show structure. I can talk a little bit about that. I think that is important. There are ways, everybody seems to have a different way of doing a show. But the thing that's most important is not to just sing a bunch of songs. There should be a little method to it. Some people seesaw dynamically from uptunes to downtunes and go out. I believe that the first song I perform is forgotten. People are busy checking you out, trying to figure out what's going on with you or why you look that way, or they're checking each other out, or they're listening to the PA, and there's so much going on that they need to get rid of. And the first song is just kind of forgotten. And I do believe they listen to the last song. It's not just everything's coming up roses. I mean, the last song needs to have some substance to it. But I think it's real important to structure a show intelligently so that it becomes a suite or a song cycle, or actually, even though they walk out humming the melody to the last tune, they get a feeling for the symmetry and I don't know what, a production, possibly an insight into you that they can feel is a cohesive unit. And so I think those are important. There's a lot to be said about making things invisible and how to get people in less than professional situations to do professional work. You don't want to have a spotlight that's on the floor and to where whenever someone walks in front of it, this enormous shadow crosses the stage. Well, it's just one little mistake, but it is definitely worth paying attention to the details of your performance, to make those things invisible, because people assume that shows happen by themselves, and they don't. It takes a lot of work and a lot of detail work. But I'm getting off this now. Wait a minute now. Just talking about singing and playing at the same time. I have often stopped at saying the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And every time I say that, I go, sagely, I nod my head, and I'm wondering if that's just, if that's simply that. That's all that's to be said about that. I think there might be more. I think it is true, especially in a duet situation when two players play and you've got two personalities going. The whole is definitely greater than the sum of its part. But playing and singing at the same time is only doing one thing, really. It's like skiing, Your knee and your elbow and your pole and your downhill and fall line and all those things. In the end, when you learn how to ski, you're only doing one thing. And I think that playing and singing is really only doing one thing too. It's an athletic thing to do. Music is an athletic thing to do. And you need to be in shape for it. So I'll go ahead and talk about these emotional obstacles because they get in the way of any kind of performance. I love this. At Colorado State College, my speech teacher gave me this, and I carry it in my guitar case all the time, and I read it when I get scared. I was going to make some copies, but I just didn't have time, so I'll read this to you. And I've really taken some weird notes over the years, but it says, about stage fright, it says, fear is the greatest destroyer of personality, and it's fear of unfamiliar situations, and it's fear of people, and it's fear of forgetting. You know, God forbid you start with the second verse. You've probably done that. It's terrible to get out of that cyclical nightmare. The music reminds me of the lyrics. And sometimes the lyrics will remind me of the music. But that's another reason that I believe it's only one thing I do. The things that I used to think were unique about my fear are all outlined here. Body tense and uncontrolled, walking meaninglessly, gestures are absent, rigid, abrupt, no timing in gestures. Oh, what a surprise. Face flushed, unresponsive. Another thing that I used to do all the time was I'd get real tired before I perform. I'd say, obviously I can't go on, I'm just too tired. I would just get sleepy. Couldn't do it. My eyes are averted, unable to look people in the eye, distorted, watery. My throat is dry, but my hands are wet. You know, just what you need, right? I talk fast. There's no timing. Those things spell the death of spontaneity, I think. No power in my voice. Sorry. No power in my voice, and it either seems pitched. Suddenly my voice is too high. Not my pitch in the song, but my whole placement is too high, or it's too low. Or my strings feel very, very loose all of a sudden. Why do they feel loose? I mean, is the tension, is the altitude here in Albuquerque affecting it this much? And it usually has very little to do with that. It's all fear, just distorting my perception of the way it's all, you know, what I have. So they talk about how to correct these remedies. They say relax. I love try to relax. I think that's really interesting. I have a friend who gets a really tight stomach, just a really ulcerous feeling and a bilious feeling. And he decided that he would transfer it down to his feet. And it works, but he's always going like this. I don't know. But you know, it's like take a half a dozen slow, easy breaths, walk if necessary before talking. For me, because I sit, it really helps me. I have a guitar strap, and it helps me to walk around and stand up and play my guitar and use my whole body as a singer. You know, it's so much easier to sing when I'm standing up, but it's harder to play. So when I sit and perform, it helps me a lot to stand up and walk around and you know. The remedies are really obvious, and also they're a little boring. And I question why they're so boring, you know. Take a half dozen slow, easy breaths. You know, sometimes I don't do things just because they do work. Well, make a bold effort. That's obvious. Do it scared. That's something I wrote down. It is, you can do it scared. It's really important to do it scared. I mean, if you are scared, that's the way you are. Do it, you know. Experience to me is making mistakes, because I've never learned as much as by really blowing it and walking away from a situation and saying, I will never do that again. And I don't ever do that again. And whether or not it's playing a song a half step higher because I think that's the way I am today, or what, and I just wind up squeaking against the ceiling, that's how I learn. Experience to me is making mistakes. That's what it all means. I believe in being quiet before addressing my audience. Oh, there's just other stuff. They talk about fixing your attention on what you're going to say. For a long time, I wanted to make it an act of love, because it's a way of believing in myself and getting all these things together to enable me to perform. This may seem a little off the subject of voice and guitar, but it's not off the subject of performing at all. Do your homework. Be ready. I think it's very important. Audiences are half attentive. They are more interested in what you say than who you are. And they are 90% sympathetic to you. They're friendly. Those are things I need to remember, because I'll forget that. I'll just say, oh, it's another Christian for the Lions, and they're going to eat me up out there. They don't know as much about what you do as you do. You know more about what you're going to do than they're just not as up on your subject, So then it gets really shrinky. It goes into sense of inferiority, and I won't do that. I won't do that. I think that's really it. I suggest that you don't quit. The one thing that, well, the two things occur to me. People, I usually say to people, don't quit, because if you quit, you lose all your options altogether. And then there's somebody who says, do you think I should go into music or go into dentistry because I'm torn? In that case, I always suggest that they go into the other, because the one thing I do know is that we are compulsive people, and most of the performers I know did not decide to be performers. They just didn't quit. You compete with people who are driven and compulsive. And if you're rational about what you're going to do with your life, then make a decision and go do it, I think. But I don't know. I love it. It's the only thing that I want to do. Have you got any questions? Can you be more specific than I am?
Last night, it was the first time I'd ever seen you, and you came on and you seemed to be very much in control, and I think the overall sense I got from you was that you were very comfortable on stage last night. And I wondered if you still do have a lot of problems going into performing. And I guess the second part of my question was, do you have a sense of timing about the show where something like last night where the second half, where you had a long break between the first half and the second half, is that hard to come back on and recapture that feeling of the first half, or how do you handle something like that?
First of all, I was not relaxed. I was scared. I was worried about my throat. I've had a cold, and warming up was kind of dangerous, and I didn't want to hurt myself, and I wasn't quite ready to go out and perform. And I usually warm up until I want to sing. As soon as I want to sing, then I keep that, and I stop, and I just look forward to it, and that helps me. I think that's been a good tool for me. But I wasn't at that point. So the fact that I looked comfortable is that consistency that I'm talking about the temporal art. It's kind of going through the motions until I get there. And as far as the pacing of the show goes, no, that break didn't bother me as long as there was an announcement made and I knew people were going to, people didn't seem to be leaving, so I was okay with that. But I wasn't worried about me there. I always like the second half better than the first, because the first half is sort of getting there, and then I can I love to do 2 shows. And I always like second sets better. I was going to say something about what I do in a show that's a little bit different than what I say. I mean, I talk a better career than I do. You should know that. It's true. If I didn't, I would be a teacher. What I mean is that would be my career, would be doing this well. And I talk about the way I think it needs to be a little bit better than I do it. When I'm working on my shows, when I think I said something about it just shouldn't be a bunch of songs. That's what I do. I get up and I know kind of what I'm going to open with, but for me the spontaneity is I don't know what I'm going to do next. And I depend on that. And I need more structure than that. And oftentimes I'll criticize myself for not having decided what this show is about and how to do it.
Do you warm up before you get on stage?
No, I warm up in the sound check. I warm up guitar-wise because I change my strings every show, and so the guitar is pretty well warmed up.
First song you came out with was a real powerful song.
Yeah, I kind of had to prove to myself that I was okay. That's another little thing. I don't know how healthy that is either. But yeah, I do. I warm up during the sound check, and sound checks usually last longer than the one last night did too. So, yeah. Jim.
Would you care to enlarge on the concept of you really can only go on from where you are? With this in mind, I know for myself, I pretty well know where I am, and I have some idea where I want to be, and I always will use all the things I need to be to get there to stop me from carrying on from where I am.
Well, you're fine. If you do what you say,
Well,
that's wonderful.
well, I mean, you can make a life out of just preparing. And I guess
That's what tuning is.
you know, is it that risky to go out, if you think you should perform at an 8, to start to go out and perform at 2s and 3s until you build up to 8s?
No. The thing that I learn sometimes when I do something that I'm not ready for is just that. I learn I'm not ready for it. Is that what you mean? Is that what you're asking?
I don't know.
Because I went on a television show once, and I hate television. No offense. And I do. I'd rather sit behind the television and listen to the music that I'm playing than see myself on television. So I hate that. And this was a talk show. It was Merv Griffin, and Merv wasn't there, and Joe Garagiola was the host, and Charo was on the show with me, and I was like, and these are people who can really make careers out of talking about dinner parties, and I can't do that, and I talk about music, and I try to be spontaneous, and I don't relate, and I was being asked questions, and I would wait that extra second, and Charo answered them a couple times, and I came out of there just feeling, spun around, just horrible. And the thing that I learned was that I wasn't ready to do that. And then 2 weeks later I saw Paul Simon on TV, and he was immutable. He was so much himself that people just backed off of the stuff, the jive. And they started talking to him about him. And he was mildly bored with him. And that seeming boredness is probably what it's like when you're Paul Simon and you're scared. But he didn't waver from who he was, and he didn't pretend that he was going to be okay in this situation. And then I saw him, and I just said, yeah, I could do that. That's what I could do, is cling to myself. I was walking there being me. Part of country music is television, and they wanted me to go on Hee Haw. And I did. And I did not pop up out of a cornfield at the end, and say, have you seen my arm? And then go back down. Or something dumb, really dumb. And I didn't tell the joke and have the picket fence come up and slap me. That's a part of that cornball stuff that I can't, that is really unprofessional. So not only was I unready to do that, I was unwilling to do that.
Did they,
nice to make decisions like that. I just said no.
didn't they try to pressure you into it then? And you stood firm?
Yeah, the pressure was, we assumed you would. The statement was, well, all right, he's through makeup, let's get him into wardrobe. And I said, wardrobe? What do you mean wardrobe? And it hit me, overalls. And it's like, no way. And I just said no. And they started peeling to, I don't know what, guilt, responsibility. This is TV, this is thousands of dollars a minute, and we're all set for you and you're not going to do it. But they're not that inflexible. So I just kept saying no. That's a hard thing for me to learn too, is what I don't want to do. But they asked me back. So I didn't blow it, I didn't destroy anything, you know.
Did you go back?
I haven't yet.
That's a nice story.
Well, it really, to me, it's really important, because what I was talking about my bigotry about country music, I didn't realize that I had a bigotry about it. I thought that country music was bigoted, you know, and I still look at it that way. But I don't look at my own bigotry about it. And there are times when I can say, oh, classical guitarists are just such a snobism, there's such an elite thing, and I don't see that as my bigotry. It takes me a while to come around and figure it out. But that was my vehicle. That's where songs are. That's where you can be an acoustic guitar player, singer. And actually, personally, I feel like I'm in a really good spot, because, like most of you, I hate 90% of what I hear on the radio, in country, in rock, in jazz, and so I play radio roulette, and I listen for a while for one of the 3 or 4 songs that I actually enjoy right now, and I don't hear them, and I turn the radio off, and then I turn it back on, and then I'll find 1 or 2, and that'll be it for me. So I'm in this commercial music business, and I don't like much commercial music, and I think what I'm calling the beer tops and teardrops syndrome of cheating songs and all that stuff that goes on in country music. Although there is violent sex that goes on in rock and roll, but for some reason country music gets singled out as being dumb. I figure I've got a chance to get a good song across. I also...
I'm sorry, do you worry about labels like that though? You know, you talked before about how your audience doesn't really know you. They just make a lot of assumptions about you. And is that difficult to work as a performer in a medium where you're billed as a country western singer?
Yes.
Or they're expecting a certain something out of you, or they only want to hear your old songs, they want to hear your new stuff. Do you have
Well, it hasn't been as much of a paradox as I thought so far, but it may get there. But yeah, I'm assuming, you see, I make the assumptions too, and my assumption is that other people have this bigotry problem too about country music from both sides of the fence. One is that if you're inside country music, that's the only kind of music there is in America. And that's my assumption, and I'm not right in that. That's just what my head does. So so I worry about that. But I don't know how founded it all is. I worry about it in terms of attendance, but once they're there, then I don't worry about it. I just do what I do.
How do you practice? I know there's times probably for all of us to get home from work and you're just like, I don't want to pick up my guitar. But you know that you have a goal, you know it's important to yourself and to that goal that you do put in the time every day.
Yeah.
What's something you can say to yourself or do for yourself to make you get into it? Because I know once I get into it, then I like it. But it's that initial getting up out of the chair, not having that beer that's going to put me to sleep to work, you know, getting into it and doing it.
Well, I think that's important, to push yourself to do those things, but not like a Spartan. Have you ever had a time when you suddenly wanted to play, but you couldn't? Because you were having dinner with your girlfriend's parents?
Lots.
Well, that's when you want to go play. that's when you want to go play. And for the times that you don't feel like playing, I mean, weigh it out. You know, just the next time you slough off because you don't want to play, promise yourself that the next time you do want to play, you'll just excuse yourself and you go sit and play. Because when you want to, that's marvelous. You know, like somebody said to me once, if you have a gift and you don't use it, it will turn on you. It will make you very bitter.
There are a lot of times that you can't leave a situation. I mean, like get the feeling to play. Right.
Well, those are the times that you can't. But there are times when you can, and you don't. And that's when you could be true to yourself and say, excuse me, I'll be back in about 20 minutes. You know? So that's one thing you can do. It's much easier to do that than it is to try and work up some form of interest about something that is seeming like work to you.
Well, it's not so much that, it's just regaining energy. Like, if I, at work, I might feel a time in the middle of the day that I just want to play so bad and I just know there's no way to do it. And I try to say to myself, and I'll save that, so that when you get home, you'll do it. But then when I get home, it's just like, whoa, it was a hard day.
Mm-hmm.
Sit down.
Mm-hmm. That's life.
It is.
Yeah.
Last
Yeah.
night you mentioned, you were talking about other people, sort of like yourself, who play the guitar and sing. And you mentioned a couple names, and it kind of surprised me because I hadn't thought of it. Jose Feliciano and Kenny Loggins. And I was thinking that they both also play a classical guitar.
Kenny Rankin, I think I said.
Oh, Kenny Rankin. Okay.
Yeah.
And just wondering about your choice of instrument generally, and how you see yourself fitting into the spectrum of people who sing and play.
Well, I think I'm pretty unique. But I chose classical guitar because it was the first guitar I had, and I played steel string after that, and I couldn't, my voice couldn't relate to it. I couldn't, you know that, it's nonverbal again. There's a sort of a melodrama, no, there's a melancholy about the sound of classical guitar. It's like my most favorite instrument is a classical guitar, and my least favorite instrument is an electric guitar. And electric guitar relates, I mean, they're great, phenomenal players, and I love them. But the electric guitar relates to other electronic instruments, all electronic instruments, and the gut string guitar relates to cellos and things that are the size of a person. And I like acoustic music, so there's something about the texture of my voice and the bottom end of that, of a gut string guitar, that just got me hooked early. And I just stayed with it. And now I do have some steel strings at home, and I do play them. But I've just not really been able to switch over. Sometimes I really think I should, you know, I'm supposed to, but I can't.
When you play a steel string, do you use that same sort of flamenco technique on it?
Yeah. Yeah, I wear my nails down really quickly. And I was talking about Kenny Rankin and Jose Feliciano. Well, there was something I wanted to mention to you about them, that Leo did one of these, didn't he? Did Leo come and speak here?
He said he was at the festival in August of '85. He did a lecture demonstration there.
Okay, well, he was talking to me about his guitar, about his left hand. And he said he plays about half as hard as he thinks he needs to. And that's another way to get rid of some tension, too. Because I do over press, and I get strong this way and I get strong this way in my neck. And that's where you need to be loose. And Feliciano doesn't have any calluses. Well, I'm sorry. Anyway, is there anything else? Yeah.
For those of us who are not, topped out vocally,
Yeah.
is there any way, any exercises or anything that you could say to get us closer to topping out?
I don't know them, There are. There are, and I've used a couple, but I don't even remember them. I remember the exercises that I used to warm up in the morning, like just the first thing in the morning. But I think any good vocal teacher could help you really increase your range on the upper and lower end, your volume, and all of that safely. And there's also really a time to leave your teacher, too, instead of doing it perfect, you know. That's, you didn't ask me that, but
No, that's fine. I guess
okay.
I'm trying to make a distinction between really trying to come across versus refining what you have. And I think, at least for myself, I have to come across first and top out and then start to sand off the edges.
Okay.
I guess I'm asking about trying to come across. Do
Yeah.
the same things apply, what you said?
No, I think it winds up being physical, like the laws of, you just get out there, you know. It's like as something approaches the speed of light, it gains weight, you know. The harder I sing, I go flat. You know, I don't go sharp when I sing really hard, it just goes flat. And my voice, instead of being bigger, gets really thin. And so the harder I try, the less I have.